This is the 1-2 Order of Operations study guide that we did in class. If you need a little refresher, you can watch this video. So in class we talked about that when it says evaluate an expression, it just means to find the answer. So when it says evaluate 5 squared, it's asking you what does 5 squared equal? Well, 5 squared means you multiply 5 by itself 2 times. That's what the 2 exponent means. 5 times 5 is 25. 3 cubed means 3 times itself 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. 10 to the 4th means 10 multiplied by itself 4 times. 10 times 10 is 100, times 10 is 1,000, times 10 is 10,000. Twelve squared means 12 times 12, which is 144. 8 cubed means 3/8 multiplied together. 8 times 8 is 24. Times 8, I believe, is 256. $512. Eight cubed means 8 times 8 times 8. 3/8 multiplied together, which is 512. 2 to the 8th means 8 2's multiplied together. So 2 times 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 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 2's. And that is 256. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32, times 2 is 64, times 2 is 128, times 2 is 256. As we get out of just one number expressions with exponents, then we have to remember our order of operations. And the first in the order of operations memory trick is please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Please stands for parentheses, so that's the stuff you do first. Anything that's in parentheses you do first. So I'm going to do the 8 minus 4 first, which is 4. After parentheses would be exponents, but I don't have any. And then multiplication and division, so I'm going to do 4 times 2, which is 8. Same thing in number 8. I'm going to start with just the stuff in the parentheses. So 12 plus 4 is 16. Again, no exponents. And then I move on to multiplication division, and 16 times 6 is 96. In number 9, I don't have parentheses or exponents, so my first step is multiplication division, and 8 times 1 is just 8, so I have 10 plus 8. Anytime I haven't dealt with something, it just stays the same. So 10 plus I haven't dealt with, the only thing I did was 8 and 1. 10 plus 8 then is 18. Number 10, again, I don't have parentheses or exponents, so I move on to the multiplication division step, which gives me the 12 divided by 4, and that gives me 3. And then I move on to addition subtraction, so 15 minus 3 is 2. In number 11, I have parentheses, so I do what's in them first. 20 minus 17 is 3. Everything else stays the same. And I can write this as 12 parentheses 3 to mean 12 times 3, or once I've finished doing the parentheses, I can just write it as 12 times 3. Once I have that done, I look for exponents, and I don't have any, so then I move on to multiplication and division. So 12 times 3 gives me 36. 3 times 6 gives me 18, and it's still minus in between those two. 36 minus 18. After I'm done with my multiplication, I move on to addition, subtraction, so I come up with 18. Alright, in number 12, I don't have any parentheses, but I do have some exponents, or a exponent, I should say. So everything else except for that 3 squared stays the same because I'm not dealing with it yet. And 3 squared is 9. After that, we move on to multiplication and division. And even though we say multiplication first, it's really on the same level as division, and we just work from left to right. So the first multiplication or division that I run into from left to right is 24 divided by 3. That gives me 8. Again, if I haven't dealt with anything yet, it stays the same. So I still have times 2 minus 9. And then the next multiplication division I run into is 8 times 2, which is 16. There's no more multiplication or division left, so I move up to my last step of addition and subtraction. So I can do 16 minus 9 is 7. Getting a little more complicated as we move on to number 13 here. I still don't have any parentheses, so I move on to exponents right away. And I have 3 squared and 2 squared. 3 squared is 9. Everything else stays the same. 2 squared is 4. After exponents comes multiplication and division, and just like in the last problem, we're going to work from left to right. So the first one I run into is 9 divided by 3, which is 3. And then the next multiplication and division I run into is 4 times 7, which is 28. And then the last one I run into is 20 divided by 5, and that's 4. Once I've eliminated all of the multiplication and division, I move on to the addition subtraction step, which is just like multiplication and division. Just because I say addition first doesn't mean I need to do it first. I work from left to right. So the first one I run into is 3 plus 28, which is 31. And then the last thing is 31 minus 4. 31 minus 4 is 27. In number 14, when we have a fraction like this, we're going to treat it as though the top is in parentheses and the bottom is in parentheses. And we're going to work through the problem all the way until we have just one number on top of one number. And then remember, fraction means division. So we take the top number divided by the bottom. So parentheses come first, and I need to do the stuff inside the parentheses. And I need to follow order of operations inside the parentheses. So order of operations tell me that I'm going to do the 3 squared first in those parentheses. So I'm going to have 4 plus 3 squared is 9 on top. And now, order of operations in the parentheses, I can take care of multiplication and division, which I don't have in the parentheses. So now I'm going to move on to addition and subtraction. So 4 plus 9 is 13. 12 plus 1 is 13. And now that I have just a number on top of a number, I do the division. 13 divided by 13 is 1. In number 15, we have 250 divided by, and then we have two sets of parentheses. So we treat it as two separate things. So we pretend like 5 times, and then parentheses, 3 times 7 plus 4 is what they gave us. And so we look at the inside parentheses first. So we're going to look at 3 times 7 plus 4, and inside order of operations, multiplication comes before addition, so we would do 3 times 7 first. So we would have 250 divided by, I'm going to call the square parentheses brackets, and 3 times 7 is 21. Then the inside parentheses, I can take care of 21 plus 4 now. And that's 25, excuse me. And these parentheses here now just mean that I'm multiplying the 5 and the 25. So I'm going to treat the inside brackets now. And 5 times 25 is 125. And then 250 divided by 125 is 2. Number 16, we're going to treat it like 2 sets of parentheses again, like we did the last number 14. So inside the parentheses, I have another set of parentheses down at the bottom. And 5 plus 2 is going to give me 7. After parentheses, I do exponents. So I'm going to take care of the 4 squared next. And that's going to look like 2 times 4 squared is 16 minus 8 divided by 2. After exponents, I do multiplication and division from left to right. So the first one I run into on the top is 2 times 16. And the first one I run into on the bottom is 7 times 2. So 2 times 16 is 32. And then 7 times 2 is 14. And then the next multiplication or division that I run into, left to right, is 8 divided by 2. So I have 32 minus 8 divided by 2 is 4 over 14. And then I can take care of addition and subtraction next, and that's 32 minus 4 is 28. And once I have just a number over a number, I can do the division. 28 divided by 14 is 2. In number 17, parentheses around the top and bottom to start to remind ourselves. And we are going to do the squareds, well, the stuff in the parentheses, which is really just 5 squared on top. And then on the bottom, 4 times 5 plus 2. So I'm going to have 4 times 5 squared is 25, minus 4 times 3. And then on the bottom, the first order of operations in that set of parentheses is 4 times 5. So I have 4, and 4 times 5 is 20, plus 2. Then, inside parentheses, I have 20 times 2 that I'm going to take care of next. So I have 4 times 25 minus 4 times 3 over 4 times 20 plus 2 is 22. Now I can take care of multiplication. 4 times 25 is the first one I run into on the top. That's 100. And 4 times 22 is what I run into on the bottom. That's 88. Then the next multiplication division is 4 times 3. So 4 times 3 is 12, so I have 100 minus 12 over 88. And when I do 100 minus 12, I get 88 over 88. 88 divided by 88 is 1. And the last problem, the parentheses down here are just meaning that we're multiplying. So the first thing I'm going to do is the exponents on top, the 5 squared. So I'm going to write that as 5 squared is 25 minus 3 on top. And then I'm going to rewrite the bottom just to remind us that it's being multiplied. That's all the parentheses mean. 20 times 3 minus 2 times 3. Multiplications next after exponents, and the first one that we run into is 20 times 3. I'm going to have still 25 minus 3 on top, and 20 times 3 is 60, minus 2 times 3. The next multiplication division you run into is 2 times 3. So we have 25 minus 3 on top still, over 60 minus 2 times 3 is 6. So then I can take care of just the addition and subtraction step. Top 25 minus 3 is 22. And on the bottom, 60 minus 6 is 54. And that's not going to be a pretty decimal, so I'm okay if you just leave it as 22 over 54.